What's up, everybody? Hey to my tribe. Let me get my light right. Hey to my tribe and hey to the Conscious crew. I already saw the TVs in the chat when I came over. So thank you guys for being here. I am so happy and so excited to have Conscious TV here with us tonight so that we can discuss some things and we can get some things out. I'm gonna go on here without further ado, bring the Kang on up to my platform. I'm so happy to have him here. I've been following Conscious TV for a long time now. You probably don't even know how long. I remember when you used to review the Queen Supreme Court, honey. That's how long.
Really, B? You've been on my ass that long. Oh my goodness.
And you used to review the Queen Supreme Court. I remember. I sure do. Do. And then I already told you last week when we were on the panel together and how you put some words on me and I've held on to them. He said the way to be karma is change. The best way to be karma is change behavior. And I honestly have held on to that.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
that's amazing. Well, I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have really been enjoying your commentary on all with the Larry Reid, Bishop Lamar Whitehead, Tasha K. I have been following it. Every time I see you go, I'll be like, I'm here, I'm over there, I'm in the bushes. A lot of times I catch you on the replay because you be so late. Yeah. But I'm there and I'm listening.
Yeah.
So I thank you for agreeing to come over here. And
no, of course. And I would just want to say right off the bat that I think it's amazing that you have been giving non-biased commentary, that you've been looking at both sides, and that you're also interested in information from both sides in order to have an informed perspective, irregardless of whose side that perspective falls on. You're looking for information, you're looking for as much context as possible. So I think that's really dope. There's not a lot of content creators who are doing that. Sherelle's World is one of the only other content creators who has been interested in the actual information as well as the narrative, but more so the information. So I really appreciate you for being information driven and for being fair and non-biased and, you know, speaking from both sides. I also want to say too that I know that El Teddy is a moderator and a good friend of yours. And yes, me and El Teddy had a bit of a tiff a few years ago, but as far as I'm concerned, it's water under the bridge. And I don't have a problem with Teddy. So much love and shout out to El Teddy.
Thank you so much. And he around here somewhere, child. He'll drop down. If he missed it, I'll tell him you said it in the red ball back chat. But thank you so much. And again, for all the people I'm seeing in the chat where you guys say that you are subscribed, you're subscribing, you have your TVs. Thank you so much for subscribing. And any members of the tribe, my mods, please make sure that you are dropping Conscious TV's his link and also his Cash App because he's giving his time. Okay, he's giving his time. So y'all tip. Y'all know what we doing. We have people over here. Y'all tip.
So nice.
Y'all go ahead and let him. He can. I don't know. You don't drink, do you?
No, unfortunately, I need to. At this point, I need to be an alcoholic at this point, but unfortunately, no.
Well, I always tell people, I say when I have my people over here, I say y'all buy them a drink or something. So buy him a smoothie or something, whatever it is that whatever he indulges in. Buy him a smoothie or something. But y'all please, thank you, my moms, for doing that for me. Yeah, my thing is this, and I told you I was gonna read this story to everybody. It's not long, but it'll explain part of the reason why I handle things the way I do. And I know some people. Because, child, they've been giving it to me in the comments. You sound like you biased. No, I'm a critical thinker. And I don't just believe you told me that. I mean, you don't tell me the sky is blue and the sky is just blue. I'm a critical thinker. And so I hear things. Just because I'm listening to both sides doesn't mean that I'm buying everything that I'm hearing. But let me read you guys this real quick. It's not real long. It's real quick. Former Ohio State football players Amir Reid and Jahan Vint were acquitted of rape and kidnapping charges stemming from a sexual encounter that took place 3 years ago. The ruling was made last week with both West and Reid breaking down in tears as the jury verdict was read out to them. The pair was arrested back in February of 2020 and charged with 2 counts of rape and 1 count of kidnapping after being accused of assaulting a 19-year-old at their apartment earlier that month. During the trial, it was contended by their attorneys that the woman accused them of this that she had consented to have sex with both men, but later regretted it, while also blaming the woman's dad for allegedly pushing his daughter into filing criminal charges against the football players, who were dismissed from the OSU football team that day. They have maintained their innocence throughout the case. What appeared to have tremendously helped the pair during the 3-day trial was the video Reid had of himself asking the woman whether she would engage in consensual sex with them. Reid was later questioned in court as to why he decided to record the accuser when he asked her for consent, to which he responded, his team's coaching staff told them to always get written consent from a girl, and he decided to record the consent. The woman she only consented because she was scared that she wouldn't be allowed to go home if she didn't abide. So I'm saying that when I read that, it hit me. I'm saying that to say this: you have to get the whole story. It's not enough to say, well, this person accused somebody, and that's just the end of the story. And I remember that story happening. These two young men's lives have been ruined because of a consensual sexual encounter. Now, people can judge and say, oh, that was nasty. Oh, they had a threesome, whatever. But at the end of the day, they have been acquitted, but they've lost 2 years of their life. They're no longer on the football team. Any aspirations that they had going to the NFL or what have you, maybe, I could say it is, may be gone. And so I bring that back to this situation with Larry Reid, his accuser, the Tasha K situation. We can get to more Whitehead later, child. Yeah. Hey, Pam. Hey to everybody. If I don't, I'm respectful of time, so we don't have time to do the roll call right now. But I see you all, and I thank you all for being here. Mm-hmm. What a lot of people don't realize with this case is this is not a new accusation. This is an accusation that you have the timeline, but this was years ago that this accusation was first made. Why do you think, I know what we're saying, but why do you think the original accusation was made based on what Larry Reid, and I know you can't speak for Larry Reid, but you're speaking for Larry Reid.
Yeah, I can speak on behalf of what I know. Yeah,
right, from what you know. What do you think is why do you think his original reason for even making the accusation to begin with?
Before I touch on that, can I touch on what you opened up with first? Mm-hmm. Okay, so because what you're saying is super significant, especially at a time like this where we don't speak a lot about the dark side of the Me Too movement. Mm-hmm. Stories like this are historical, where there's a precedence of athletes, politicians, people in power, people who have proximity and access are also preyed upon as well. We also live in a time now where social media makes it very easy to really weaponize against people for whatever reason, whether that's out of personal motive, heartbreak, sadness, depression, abandonment. There are all types of motives that people have. And we also live in an age of profound clout chasers. People are just looking for their 15 minutes. A prime example of this is supermodel Janice Dickerson, who lied on Bill Cosby. She literally joined the Me Too situation against this man and took the stand and alleged that he also had violated her. And then they had to pull from a memoir she had did years prior to these to the trial, where she recounted a consensual sexual encounter with Cosby, and then she tried to clean it up later, and it was a mess. You also had Shanquasia Sharpton, who came out against Usher, and she had accused him of various things, and then 3 weeks into a press conference regarding these allegations, she came out and said she just wanted to know what 15 minutes of fame felt like, and she had wasted taxpayers' dollars, and she had gotten a corrupted ass Lisa Bloom, celebrity attorney, to take her. I mean, it was just a hot mess, and I'm just like, and we don't focus enough about this side of this. As it relates to your question about why I believe Levantre did this, from what I understand, because Larry had an entire dissertation in his Patreon where he brought himself in. He also brought in other ministers and housemates who lived with them all at this time, who also mentored Levantre. And there was a situation that had arrived in Larry's church where Levantre was in a inappropriate relationship, allegedly, with his now wife, who is 5 years his senior. Levantre was a teenager. She was an adult woman. So they both were chastised and put out the church as a result of this penalty.
Right.
Levantre then cited these claims while his mother was in St. Martin's on a mission.
Right.
And they cleaned it up by Levantre just all out admitting that he lied on Larry. And so when people were questioning why Mrs. Benison wasn't in a hurry to get back to her children, it took her almost a month to get back to her son after he caught her in the middle of a St. Martin's trip and said that, hey, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G happened. Now, mind you, really, a part of them coming into the ministry was she gave him over to the men to mentor because Levantre had a lying spirit. He lied about things from petty white lies to the most ridiculous of things. And some of them out, I think my freaking webcam is acting a donkey. I'm going to fix it while I just continue to talk. He had a lying spirit. And so she naturally side-eyed her child, because, hey, you've done this before. You've lied on people before, etc. She came back to the States. By the time she got back, Levantre had already admitted to her that it was a lie. They then begged Larry back into the ministry, and that's why, really, you can see there's literally footage of Sharon front row of the ministry with her titties jumping in the front row, praising God and all after these allegations. And Levantre would go on to stay in the ministry for another 8 years before Larry would cut ties. And so that all happened because Levantre confessed that it was a lie. He was upset that he had been emancipated from the ministry and from this man who he adored so much.
And that's a part of the story, because I watched. Now, I ain't watched all of it because I just didn't have the energy for all of it. But I did watch some of it. And that's part of the story that the mama didn't tell. That part of the story. She talked about the St. Martin and her getting the phone call. But conveniently, we didn't hear the rest of that, right? And I do know, shout out to Pam Intellect Esquire, who I watched her breakdown of the mom's interview. And she showed that footage of the mama shouting in the front row after all of the accusations. And so, you know, again, y'all do with the information what y'all want, but my brain breaks all this stuff down. Now, again, like I said from the beginning, there are some people you either going to believe left or you're going to believe right. I ain't talking to the left and I'm not talking to the right. We talking to the people in the middle, because if you've already made up your mind, then there's nothing anybody can say to you. And that's fine. You feel the way you feel. I'm not here to convince anybody. What I do want is for people to get the facts. And if you listen to one side, I think it's only fair that you listen to the other side. And that's on both ends, right? But for me, when I heard these things, that, you know, all these things clicked to me, because let's be clear, my child called me. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Congrats on the 10K. I hit 10K.
You know you hit 10K, girl.
No, I didn't, but I'm close. But it's okay. I'm close.
You're going to get there by the end, honey. We're going to make sure that you get the 10K before the night is out, honey. Believe me.
Ooh, I'm close, though. I was about to shout my damn self. But let's be clear. I get a phone call from my child saying this man that I've been living with, I'm going to put that in air quotes, for the past whatever, this is what he did to me. I promise you, I'd be swimming across that ocean. Like, there's just nothing that would stop me from getting there. And then there's nothing that would stop me from taking him to the doctor and then taking him to the police station. That's me. And I can only speak for me. But when I hear, I'm like, I don't understand why a police report was never filed until, 5 years ago, I think? Again, I don't have...
Yeah, in 2018.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that, too, because that's a big, major part of a lot of things that are happening too. Yeah. Okay. But you're absolutely right in questioning, because nobody could explain her behavior. Like, why did it take you 3 weeks to get home? Then you got home, you had a conversation with Larry, then that was kind of that. Y'all stayed around, and it nothing made sense. Then you ultimately left your son in the ministry after you go migrate ultimately from it was just a lot going on. But let's also talk about Sharon's lies. The woman had dreams of going into the WNBA in 1985. Listen, I mean, you have to make this kind of stuff.
Listen, when I heard that, I ain't lying. Eyeball fell out. Listen, I said, what? But see, she let Tasha K walk her into that one. Tasha K said, did you have aspirations of going to the NBA? She said, I
did. Yes, Willie B. Yes.
You had aspirations to go into something that wasn't created yet.
I'm talking really big. The WNBA wasn't even around the corner. It was a decade out from 1985.
Listen. Woo, when she said that she was a good girl all the way through high school, but she was in a gang at 14, that did it for me.
And not only was she a gang at 14, honey, she was a pregnant single mother her senior year of high school, but she was a good girl.
A good girl until she ran into the wrong man. But she said that she was in a gang at 14. I said, now wait a minute. Listen.
You a gang, you're pregnant by your senior year of high school, unwed.
You going to the WNBA.
You're going into the WNBA, girl. I mean, what's next? American Idol in 85? I mean, it was a hot mess, but you could tell this whole thing was scripted because Tasha and both Sharon kept forgetting the script. There were moments where Tasha would go in and out of the script, but then she would be a regular interviewer. And what she messed up at was when Sharon also gave this big dissertation about how Levante was practically just a good boy. But then Tasha K messed around and reminded her that your son told me he was in a gang growing up. And she like, yeah, about that. Like, right. So,
it was like, oh, wait a minute, did I forget that? Oh, shoot, hold on, let me go review my notes. So we have hammered, if you've been following the case with an open mind, then we have hammered this age thing to death. But let's just briefly, for the people who haven't heard it before, his first story was he was 14, correct? Or was it 15?
Yeah, he was 14. Mm-hmm.
But, and let me tell you something, how tickled I was that night that because what was funny was I heard it when you heard it. Because when you read it, I said, wait, what? And then you caught it. You said, wait a minute, ho. And for the people who don't know what I'm talking about, as he was reading through the documents, Consciouz TV caught something that he had been missing this whole time himself. And it was, again, a discrepancy with the timeline, which supported what Larry Reid had been saying all this time about when he met Levante, when he started, quote unquote, mentoring. And the reason I say mentoring, because I know there was a process where he was Shamarko first, and then and I know there's a whole thing there. But it basically ended up supporting what Larry Reid has been saying this whole time. So what's the synopsis of the age situation?
Okay, so Levante did 2 interviews before the Unhinged docuseries. One was with another YouTuber who Larry sued and has an injunction against. And in that interview, he had said that he was 14 and that this had happened at the 3216 Alusty Drive property, which I'm going to pull up the receipts for you in a second. Then he turned around last year and interviewed with Bishop Criminal Head, aka Whitehead. And then he said, no. I was 15 years old. So this was not the second time he had changed his age. And then by the time he got in front of Unhinged, he was like, well, I was 14 and I was 15, but he had just corrected the 14 age in the Bishop Whitehead interview. So there was all of this Uchi popping that he had been doing. Now, mind you, people tried to give him the benefit of a doubt and was like, well, maybe this is a frivolous, lack of memory. But if you let Levante tell it as he did, in part one of the interview, he says he has damn near a photographic memory. He says that any moment that has strong emotional impressions upon him, he can recount almost verbatim the temperature in the room, the design of the space he's in, where he is, and he can just recall all these minuscule details. So I'm like, well, according to Levontre, I can't give his brain the benefit of a doubt because he told me that I could rely emphatically upon his memory recall. But yet here it is. He's going back and forth with the age. Now I'm going to share my screen here if you desire me so to, really.
Is there anything I need to do?
And let me pull it up here.
What you need to do?
I'm going to present, and you just have to give me permission. Okay.
What do I? You said just give you permission.
Yeah, it should. There you go. Yes, there you go. So what Levontre had forgotten was about this 2017 Facebook exchange between him and Dr., where the doctor had hit him up because the doctor had got word from Shamako that Levontre was upset because Larry at this point had cut him off and blocked him, but didn't give him a formal goodbye. So he was like, what the hell is going on? Why did he block me? What did I do, etc.? So Larry hits him up and says, hey, you know, things have changed, etc. I still love you, blah, 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 blah. So he responds practically 2 months later to that initial inbox. And here it is in 2017. He would have been 26 years old, going on 27 in 2017. He establishes a timeline accidentally at this point, because if you read through this here, there's a part in the text thread where he says this: honestly, if a vision was enough, which I don't believe, for you to make a in-the-moment decision to delete me from your social media without pursuing a conversation after almost 10 years of relationship history. Well, easily, you subtract 10 from 26, what age do you get? The age that Larry says Levontre first entered the ministry. Now Larry wouldn't go on to mentor him until he was 17, literally going on 18 years of age. But when he entered the ministry would have been when he was 16. That's the same story that even Larry's staff also corroborates. Now, what's funny about this timeline, really, be also, is if you listen closely to the interview that Levantre's mother did with Tasha, when Tasha asked her, Sharon, how much time had transpired by the time Levontre would transition from the previous ministry to Larry's ministry, all of a sudden, Sharon's memory gets real foggy. She can't recall an exact amount of time. She doesn't want to put a number on it. And the reason she doesn't want to put a number on it is because she just told Unhinged how at the previous church they were at, she left because the pastor was doing all type of crazy things, and she just got a bad taste in her mouth and she didn't want to be there anymore. So she left first, and she left her 14-year-old son there for 2 years before he would transition into Larry's ministry. That's why she didn't want to put a number on how much time had lapsed between she would make her 14-year-old child, who to any of us shouldn't even had a choice in the matter, especially if you as a parent have made a personal judgment about the things happening in the church and the leader, but you would leave your freaking son there for 2 years before he would then become a drummer and a musician at Larry's church. But to bring it all back home, 10 years he establishes from 2017. But he gets in an interview with the first interviewer and with Bishop and with Tasha and says he was 14. Even his mom inadvertently in that interview said that couldn't have been possible because my son was still at the previous church when he was 14 years of age. See, they had slipped up and just punched holes in their own stuff this entire time. This was not well thought out, really, B.
Well, you know, what Judge Judy tells us, y'all know that's my girl. My people over here know Judge Judy, my girl. Judge Judy say, if you're telling the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
No,
because the truth doesn't change.
That's it.
You know, and so again, you know, I have my feelings. Oh, we lost. Oh, there he is. Okay. Oh, he was taking off the thing. Yeah. I have my feelings, but again, I am a critical thinker. And when I first started hearing all of this, for me, the first thing for me was the fact that the house wasn't even built when they said that the house was built. Child, that was the first thing for me. And for me, it's just kind of been all downhill from there. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody is perfect and nobody, I ain't going down that road, but I'm not saying that I necessarily, I'm just critically thinking. Hey, El Teddy.
Hi, Teddy.
You weren't here at the beginning, but Consciouz TV said hi to you and told you that, as far as he's concerned, whatever happened is water under the bridge. And hello. Well, he didn't throw the kids. I'm throwing the kids. All right. Oh, okay. Thank you for inviting the king and the kingdom. I know that's right, right? Okay.
Period.
I saw a Gift in the Curse podcast in here too. Hey,
yes. Hey, Gift.
I be in your bushes too, girl. I be in your bushes too. Okay, so since you just had that text exchange up there, let's go on and just deal with that, because that was the smoking gun that Tasha K claimed she had, right? Yeah. This text exchange from Facebook from however many years ago that was. And a lot of people are holding on to the missing message that Tasha K is making a big deal about. Oh, Larry Reid forgot about this one. Larry Reid forgot about this message. And let's read what it says. And he said he apologized. Now, for me, again, I discussed the receipts on my channel, and I told my people how I felt about the receipt. Yeah. Again, I think critically. In the message, it said, yes, Larry Reid said, I apologize. He said, but I have apologized publicly and privately to the people. ... So what that says to me is, again, what I heard was, even if you're saying that was his apology for doing what he did, then what Larry Reid said in that statement was, I apologize publicly. So now my question is, well, who witnessed the public apology?
Right.
Because even, and I know that that's not the context. I know that was taken out of context. But even if I'm walking down the yellow brick road that Tasha K want me to walk down, then who was there to hear the public apology? So do you want to explain the missing message and what happened and all of that?
Yeah, because the missing messages, let me see, do I have them here? Do I have them up here? I do have them somewhere. I'll pull them up too. But so the missing message was something that Larry did not run from. Anybody who had been following Larry's commentary, following his Patreon, also following some of his interviews on my platform, he was the first one to address the missing message. He was the one to let us know there was a message that he sent and then unsent, because once he told his team what Levante had said to him in the text message, and he showed them what he responded with, the team was like, oh no, you know, that boy is insane. He's going to, project onto that. You know, you were way too cuddling. I understand. You was just trying to soothe him over because you just cut him off and all of that. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So Larry unsent the message. So we finally get the message, okay? And to your point, obviously, his apology is not in the context of any abuse toward Levante, because at this point he's talking about apologizing publicly, apologizing privately, but he's also acknowledging that he has been on a apology tour period as a pastor. Now, I know I can't play certain things here, but in my last live, I played one of the male church members who came up on Larry's platform in a video he did titled Toxic Masculinity. And the church member spoke about how Larry was very hard on them in the church. He was very homophobic. And that he had a very tough love. And Larry apologized to that church member publicly, because to Larry's point in the text, ever since I've grown as a minister and as a spiritual leader, I look back on some of the ways that I conducted the church and the way that I led, and I want to apologize to you all, because I know I might have came off overbearing or overprotective or homophobic or whatever it was. So he literally had been in the business of making a public apology or private ones when he came into contact with his church members, which is something you should do when you realize you've probably made some mistakes and you probably left a bad taste in some folks' mouth, and you clean things up. That's the mature thing to do. So Larry then gets to this accusation. What people have to remember is that at this point, Larry has already been through this with Levantre several years ago. They've already dealt with this. Levantre has already came out and said it was a lie, told his mom it was a lie, said why it was a lie. So as far as Larry is concerned, I'm not even acknowledging your craziness because I know what you're doing now. I know what you're doing now. We've been through this already. So you're running the same script. And unlike the last time, I'm not even going to be emotionally invested in you citing that buffoonery that we all know is not true. But because I hit you up because I felt guilty about just cutting you off socially, blocking you everywhere, I'm man enough to still afford you that conversation about our friendship because you're berating me in the text about how wrong I am for cutting you off. Yet you're accusing me of being your abuser. Make it make sense. You should be happy then that I don't want a damn thing to do with you. You should be happy then that you woke up and I didn't want to be around. I didn't want to be in your life. I didn't want to do any of that. But Larry took it upon himself to still put that priority there of if you need closure, if you need a I'm sorry, if you need a conversation about how I cut you off and our friendship and all of that, I can still give you that as a man. And I can give you that because for me, this is the final goodbye. So if that's what you need to rest easy, we can talk. If not, goodbye. He doesn't even acknowledge the accusation because they've already been there and done that. Now, most people find that to have been a little bit too Supermanish, even, on his part, because most of us would have cut Levantre clean the hell out. But when I honestly put myself in Larry's shoes and I'm thinking, if there was a young man in my life that I had loved, I practically had raised, I knew he came into the church toe up emotionally, trauma, doesn't have a father, and has been abused, according to Levantre, by his cousin and by the previous pastor, which is why it's crazy that his mom left him there while she saved herself and went somewhere else. If this person who I had grown to love and value and treated like a son, we were at a crossroads in our relationship, I probably wouldn't have a street attitude toward that person. Even when it comes to them disrespecting me, I would probably still handle that in love because I'm a lot like that in real life myself. I will go completely Crenshaw on anybody I don't know. We can get real ghetto real quick. But when it comes to the people that I love, that's a different situation. And I don't conduct myself and handle those situations the way that I would anybody off the street. So that was that. And what's crazy about the receipt is that this is Levantre's third interview. He knew this was not a smoking gun, which is why he didn't present it in the first interview in 2001, which is why he didn't present it in 2002 with Bishop Whitehead, because he understood himself the context of Larry's statement. It didn't even strike him. It was a smoking gun. He didn't even interpret that message to be that. But because this was the final show and Tasha was going all out with lights, camera, action, and to her words, we got to make it stick, Levantre. We got to make it stick this time. She made him say, look, you told a bunch of narratives to everybody else. You got to have something for me. I need something.
He sure did. And she said
some type of substance. And she declared that even to Larry in the December 6th phone call that he recorded for his sake, where she literally told him as well, hey, I can't do this without you. I have something that might be a receipt, that seems like it's a receipt, but I need you to come into the studio. So even she knew what they were going to use as the smoking gun was ambiguous. It was weak as hell, and that it would have been reaching. But because Larry didn't participate, they was left to Levantre's narrative. And that's why she had to do all of the fluff in between the series. She had to go live on fucking Friday, and she had to do all of it because she had
that thing out for a month.
Yeah, because she had to fluff you up to sell the receiptless receipt to you. She had to stuff you with the narrative as much as possible so that by the time you saw the so-called receipt, it looked it like something it wasn't, which was a receipt.
Right. I told my people from the beginning, I said, that's all I want. All I want to see is this foolproof, this smoking gun. And I told my people then, if it ain't Larry Reid saying, I am sorry that I then for me, that's not a smoking gun. Because like you said, that everything else is left up into interpretation. And going back to something you said at the beginning, a few minutes ago, when you were talking about how Larry Reid had kind of went on an apology tour when he, and again, I've been following it, so I know all, he had, he was going through a lot and he just cut everything off. But I also think that people forget or people don't put, and I'm put into context, Larry was in his 20s. He was young when he started he grew up in the church, but in his ministry. And so he made mistakes. He wasn't perfect. He had to grow in his own evolution as well, like as a spiritual leader. So I think people, we tend to do this anyway in any situation, but we see Larry Reid now and we see a 40-year-old man or however old he is, a 40-something-year-old man. I think he just turned 45. He just turned 45.
Yeah, 45. He just turned on the 13th.
Yeah, we see this 45-year-old man, and we don't realize that when all this stuff happened, he was a 20-something-year-old young man. And I'm not excusing. If you believe that Larry Reid did what he did, I'm not saying this to make excuses. I'm saying this to put these things into context that it's you have to, if you're gonna put Levantre at 16, then you also have to put Larry Reid in the right context as well. And again, I ain't here to convince nobody. We going through the facts. So that explains the smoking gun. Now this situation has been beat to death. Again, if you've been following it, but Larry Reid did file a lawsuit after much prodding from his team because he didn't want to do it. He was ready to just like whatever.
Right.
But much prodding from his team, and we know that he had to withdraw the lawsuit because of jurisdictional issues. Not because Bishop Whitehead made him drop the lawsuit, but because of jurisdictional issues. Larry Reid has said on his platform that he is going to refile. And does he also have something waiting, according in your opinion? Because I know you're not speaking for him, but does he have something waiting for Tasha K too?
Oh, he has an entire lawsuit waiting for Tasha K. Okay, so Tasha K is coming right after Levantre raps. Okay, and so speaking of that lawsuit, he did file initially in North Carolina against the accuser. The accuser received the summons by his mother. His mother confirmed to the process server that yes, Levantre Andrews lives here, etc. But he contested that in court. I'm going to share my screen again. And all this is public record for anybody who wants to download any of the PDF files from the lawsuit. This is what Levantre presented to the courts, which was a redacted Georgia's license. And in his response to the lawsuit, he stated that his mother had no right to receive a summons on his behalf, that he's been a prime residency of Georgia since 2015, and that he can't obviously be litigated in North Carolina because he doesn't live there. As a result, Larry had to submit a motion for dismissal so that he could then refile in the appropriate state, which is the state of Georgia, etc. And then litigation begins all over. But this is even interesting as well, because what kind of person has time to speak to every blogger who cannot stand Larry, but refuses to see Larry before a judge? Here it is. Your alleged abuser is giving you the opportunity to bring him to justice, and you rather argue jurisdiction rather than take up the fight, especially since this is a man that you are claiming to all of Beyonce's internet has allegedly violated you. So why would you not want to take up the opportunity? Well, Levontre don't want to take up the opportunity because he would have to commit perjury on stand. He's already lied several times right off the rip about his age. He filed a frivolous police report, which we can explore if you want to as well. And there are so many things that would clearly lean to a victory on Larry Reid's side. And Levontre is aware of this because he's just retelling a baseless, unsubstantiated, bona fide lie. He's aware that it's a lie, and he's aware that there's no context to legitimize this thing before the court of law. The only person that would have facts on their side would be Larry Reid. But this is what he presented. So this is why Larry had to refile, because he filed in North Carolina against Levontre. Now he's had to file in Georgia as a result of him contesting jurisdiction.
Yeah, I'm reading the chat. Y'all cutting up in that chat.
They are. They are mess.
Cutting up. So now, and this is not to drag anybody, but since the Tasha K interview, Levontre has an interview with at least 2 other YouTubers, to my knowledge. And I can't listen. I can't remember which one where I heard it, but something I heard on your channel. Levontre said he doesn't have a criminal past and he's never been in trouble with the law, but that's not true, correct?
That would definitely not be true. Really be, because here it is. We know that Levontre was charged with theft by taking in 2018, and it was actually booked and busy down there at the Fulton County in 2019 for that charge. And that's the whole thing about the lies, just the lying over and over and over again. Just like his mom brought him into the church, he had a lying spirit. Clearly, even at 31 years of age, still a lying ass spirit. Lying spirit. So yeah, he's been to jail. And let's talk a little bit about this theft by taking, because there's a bit of an interesting story that explains this here, really be, which is the police report that was filed the same year. Okay, now let's talk about this. So theft by taking. The context for this charge is Levontre had borrowed $10,000 from a minister from Larry's church named Minister Joshua. Minister Joshua gave them a $10,000 loan to help put Ashley, who's Levantre's wife, through cosmetology school. Well, there's a bunch of receipts showing Minister Joshua running behind this man and his wife for a year for his money. They made hardly no payment on this $10K loan that was in Minister Joshua's name that he had taken out in good faith because Levontre was a part of the ministry, etc., all of that good jazz. They ran off with this man's money, stopped communicating with him, gave him the runaround, etc. So Levontre had borrowed a drum set from another minister of music, allegedly. This minister of music also could not get a hold of Levontre after a while. He needed his stuff back. So Levontre started giving him the same runaround that he was giving Minister Joshua. So this minister of music went live and outed Levontre all of this. And the minister of music remembered that Levontre had told him that Larry was his dad. So the minister of music then goes contact Larry and was like, hey, do you know Levontre Andrews? He says you're his dad. This boy got my stuff. He got my equipment. I don't know where it is. Matter of fact, at this point, he had already been aware that Levontre had pawned his equipment. What Levontre was doing was robbing Peter to pay Paul. Oh. Okay? So the minister of music hits up Larry Reid and it's like, hey, you know, what can you do? At this point, as you can see from the 2017 messages, at this point, Larry and Levontre would not have had a relationship for a year now when all this is going down. So Larry's not getting involved. He tells the guy, hey, just continue to contact him. I'm sure y'all be able to work something out. And this is not my child. I don't know what's going on, but just continue to hit him up, blah, 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 blah. Well, the guy must have tried to do that to no avail. He goes and reports Levontre, and they charge his ass accordingly with theft by taking. Now, mind you, the date of this. This is 07/27/2018. Guess what Levontre would do, really be, as a result of Larry not bailing him out of this situation he got his ashy ass into, he would then go 10 days later and file a frivolous police report against the doctor. What is the date on this police report? 0806 2018.
That's the police report that he filed against Larry Reid, where he has the address to the house that wasn't there yet.
Yes, it is.
Okay. But Larry Reid's name isn't on that report, correct? Or am I not? Okay.
Only the 3216 Aluschi Drive address is, and as you see here, crime is forcibly fondled. But to your point, remember, he's done 2 interviews since Tasha K. He said to one of the interviewers that he was never assaulted by Larry.
Right.
But
he said Larry never touched him.
Yeah. Never touched him. But yet he filed a police report without Larry's name on it 10 days after Larry doesn't bail him out of the situation he got himself into, and he's charged with theft by taking and cites forcible fondling. So which one is it, Levontre? Were you 14? Were you 15? Were you both 14 and 15? Were you assaulted? Not assaulted? Like, what's tea, homie?
But wait a minute, hold on, Consciouz.
Mm-hmm.
I also noticed that he says that the day of the offense was August the 6th of 2018. How old was he in 2018?
He would have been 17 going on 18.
In 2018?
No. I mean, in 2017, he would have been 26 going on 27.
So, I mean, this could be a typo, but the police report says that the offense happened on that day, which means he was 26 years old.
You can't make this stuff. You can't make this stuff up.
I mean, shout out to the person. I don't know if she want me to say her name. Well, she typed it in the chat. Shout out to Pam who said you see the date.
That part. How? But he told the first interviewer that the police report was cited for the offense that happened in when he was 14, which would have been in 2004. So that's what I'm talking about. It's the coochie popping. So you filed a frivolous report against this man for as a result of him not bailing you out. You cite the offense for the day of the filing, but you tell the first interviewer that it was for when you was 14, and then you also tell Bishop Whitehead that there is an open investigation as a result of this police report. But come to find out, in Larry's 2021 litigation against that interviewer who also touted that lie, guess what the courts had to do, ReallyB? They had to subpoena the Raleigh police report in order to confirm what Levontre had said. And guess what? As a result of a subpoena, they could not find Larry's name in the database. The case was never assigned an investigator. And do you know why it was never assigned an investigator? It didn't even have Larry's name on it. So how the hell was there going to be an investigation against Larry Reid? Why would Larry Reid's name be in the goddamn database for a case that was never picked up to begin with? And these are the facts. This is an excerpt from that 2021 litigation against that YouTuber who interviewed Levontre in 2021.
So, okay.
Things that make you scratch your ass, ReallyB.
Right. My brain hurts. And again, here's the thing. It's so many discrepancies, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many discrepancies. Again, you have to ask, if you're a critical thinker, you just have to ask yourself some questions. Again, I'm not saying that Larry Reid is an angel and that he did everything correctly, because he's admitted that he didn't do everything, right, and he would do things differently in hindsight. But you have to, in my opinion, you have to at the very least question and use and have some critical thinking and question some of this stuff. Now, speaking of lawsuits, let me say this. Any final words? Because I'm about to switch gears to your boy.
just all I can say is, look, people think that the situation between Levante and Larry is a matter of one person's word versus another. It's not. There's a bunch of facts that completely refute what one party is saying all out and together. This is not a matter of narrative. This is not a matter of ambiguity regarding one claim against another. Larry Reid has nothing but an avalanche of substantial evidence to support everything he's saying. From the time this boy came into his ministry, from the time this boy came into his house, from the police report that also conflicts with Levante and his interviews, and when he stated he came into the ministry. I mean, there is just a flood of, as you just said, inconsistencies and downright explicit, all-out lying. It's not even, they're not even expounding upon the truth. They're just literally creating lies, and that's why every time they say something and you try to fit it into what they've already said, that fit ends up disproportionate. The thing is up here, and the last thing they said is way down here, and there's no. Okay, so what you're saying right now is flying at 30,000 miles, but what you said earlier flew at 5,000. Trying to understand how. So I just encourage people to search out the facts. They're there.
If 1 + 1 = 2, and 2 + 2 = 4, 4 + 4 ain't gonna never be 7. That's all I got. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And let me say this before I switch gears. For anybody that not that I have to, but I'm gonna just say this. I grew up Catholic. I was at a parish where we had a situation where one of the priests was removed because of inappropriate behavior with people who were friends of mine, with boys who I went to school with who were friends of mine. So I'm not blind to what a church can do or what people in a church can do. I'm not blind to it. I know it has happened. I have seen it on a front row basis. I also went to school in Greensboro, North Carolina. So I'm very familiar with the Bible Belt. I'm very familiar with churches and things in that area. So I again, I didn't know Larry Reid. I didn't know anything about his church or ministry, but I was down there for 6 years. So I'm very familiar. But again, I have to think critically because again, I don't know it. I don't know any of these people, but I'm hearing it, and I know that where there's a lot of discrepancies, you just have to dig deeper. And my biggest issue with this whole expose is there just was no digging deep. There was no objectivity in it. It was a hit job. It was a witch hunt. In my opinion, let me just say that. In my opinion,
I think that's fact though, really be. I don't even think that you can really say opinion. I think that we have to say that that's a fact. This woman did not.
No objectivity in this. Even her questioning when things were blatantly didn't make sense. There was no boom, 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 boom. It was just okay. Like I mean, the WNBA thing is just a perfect. I mean, I know that's silly and we've been laughing about it, but it is a blatant situation when that was easily something that you could Google while you were sitting there in the middle of the interview. The conversation, like she didn't press that woman on Tasha K's a mom. She didn't press that woman on your son calls you and tells you this happened to him and you ain't on the first thing smoking. She didn't press her about that. She didn't press her even with Levante. There were things that we know Tasha K knew, whether she believed him or not. She knew. She didn't press him. And so, again, you just have to, in my opinion, you have to take all that into consideration and say, hey, certain things, the math ain't mathing on certain things. That's my opinion. So I'm going to be in the front row with my popcorn waiting to see where the next.
And can we just talk about one more thing that I think was super huge? That was super huge when it came to Sharon. Was, after she tried to act on code and pretend like her son was just a goody two shoes, and then Tasha K slipped up and said, your son told me he was in a gang growing up. But then once Sharon also forgot to be on code, she started talking about the reality of what it was like to raise Levante and spoke about how this boy was so disobedient that she would leave him and come back and there would be 10 cars in her yard. And she didn't play that. So now we also have Tasha not pressing her on, wait a minute, you just inadvertently admitted that you used to leave your 10-year-old, 11-year-old underage son home alone. And if there were 10 cars in your yard, your underage son was also in the company of people who were far older than him, because these folk were licensed drivers. These folk own vehicles. But you just told us how Lavontre was an easy to raise, lovable, smart, drum banging child. Now we know he done been in gangs. Now we know he had the house filled, that he was rendezvousing and running the streets with older folk, and that he was disobedient to you, and that you would always have to check him about having your house filled up with niggas. So it was just like, and Tasha K didn't cross-examine none of that. She did not also present any of the facts, like she did not address Lavontre about the police report. Why did you say there was an open investigation when we know, according to court procedures, there was an investigation into those claims that came back basis of Lavontre, but you said there was an open investigation. She didn't prompt him for the facts, not any of the inconsistencies. And to your point, because it was all smear. It wasn't designed to be about fact checking. It was designed to just make sure that Lavontre had a stage to help Tasha slander a man who didn't give her $200,000 of an investment into a business she really was pressing him on. And then also had the nerve to remain my friend after her and I fell out, and she gave him an ultimatum that he had to choose between her and I. Well, we see who was the last woman standing.
Well. Well, that is true. And again, not to go too deep into that rabbit hole, but it's very sad that somebody who you called a friend, because you did, you could say something different now, but you called that man a friend, someone who helped you,
her pastor,
a pastor, someone who
helped her pastor,
someone who helped you financially, who helped you in many ways. And again, this is coming from somebody on the outside who saw it, so I know it ain't a lie. I saw it, it's a shame that something that small would make you go this nuclear. Because this, like you said before, I can walk away. Like I can walk away. I mean, there are people that I'll probably never speak to again, but I'll never spill their tea.
Yeah,
that's just not me.
Same here.
I could sit on a secret, and I may not. I'll cross the street when I see you coming down, but I have no reason to go and tell nobody. Well, what she said about you, and I know what she did with you. That's just not who I am. And so, for you to take probably the worst chapter in this man's book from a point of view of what could destroy him, like you said, with post Me Too and everything else, and to take that weapon to use against him out of your own personal anger towards him, because this isn't about exposing pastors. It's not what it's about. Because like you said, if it were about that, then there's so many other people, including the person she's in cahoots with right now, that has shady stuff out there. Whether it's true or not isn't the point. It's out there. She ain't investigating that.
Do you want to hear something, Really B?
Sure.
You might be interested in speaking of that. Give me 1 second here.
Okay. This chat, I can't. Not Apostle Big Benny. I am not.
Okay, I'm back. Now, this probably going to sound super freaking low, but tell me how this sounds to you. Okay. So let me try to adjust my microphone here. And this is the loudest I'm going to be able to get it, unless I have to pull up the actual thing. But can you hear that?
It's not clear, but I know what the video is. I know what that is, but
Okay,
it's not.
great.
It's not
Okay.
that clear.
Okay, so you already know what it is. So to your point, you know, since this is about claims and we're doing baseless claims that we're going to make docuseries out of, then how is it that Unhinged completely overlooks the fact that Bishop Whitehead's ex-wife literally had him tied all up into CPS investigations regarding sexual exploitation and sexual assault claims alleged by his own wife to his own children?
Now, what I find very interesting, and this is something that I saw that when the church first got robbed and everything went viral. And yes, the first place I saw it was Larry Reid's Instagram. But that is one of the first videos that I saw before. It was probably right after him and Larry Reid had their dust up on Instagram Live. And I wasn't even looking for it. It came up in my YouTube feed because, you know, he was trending and all of that. And so what I find to be very interesting is if the video floated to my YouTube feed and I saw it, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Bishop Whitehead did a live. This was long before he was robbed and all of that. But he did a live. He was sitting in his car. He was going off about his ex-wife. The whole video is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Explicit isn't the word, but there's a lot of venom in his tone. Y'all seen him when he go off on people. It's very venomous in his tone towards his ex-wife. And he spoke about how his ex-wife had made all these accusations against him, and CPS was involved and accusing him of doing some, you know, violating his children, to put it nicely. And I found it so interesting that all these people that are caping for him act like they ain't never seen it. Because I know you seen it. Because if I saw it, you saw it.
That part.
You know,
that part.
Now, Bishop. Speaking of good Bishop over here, as Abby calls him, Bishop Lamore. Well, she's the only one, but you know, Bishop Lamore. So we know that Larry Reid's attorneys have filed there, and I know you're going to do a live about it when you leave here. So we don't have to go too deep into it. But Bishop Whitehead did file a $20 million lawsuit against Larry Reid and King Jives as a result of some things he said. Now, listen, I tell my people all the time, for the tribe that's in the chat, y'all know I say this all the time. I didn't go to nobody's law school, okay? I got my law degree from Law and Order University via Matlaw College, okay? But
that part.
It seems to me that in order for you to accuse somebody of slander, they have to make a statement that ain't true. You said that Larry Reid called you a scammer. Sir, you are a convicted felon for fraud. You went to jail. That's like somebody who went to jail for being a thief is going to say, but I'm not a thief. Sir, you went to jail for stealing something. You are a thief. So I didn't understand that. Then you said, well, Larry Reid said that I would be locked up within 3 months. Okay, he was off by a month. But the point is, I mean, okay, so he was off by a month. Okay.
That part.
And I know that you're going to break it down, and I know Pam broke it down. You know, she gave us all the legal breakdown. But just as a basic, what he said wasn't a lie. I'm not. Now, you might not like that he said it. You might be mad that he said it. But he didn't lie on you, sir.
So a lot of people think that, well, first of all, it's very difficult for public figures to prove slander. True. You know, which is why the Cardi B case was interesting, because it set a precedence, and it's typically difficult to accomplish what Cardi B did against Unwind. And Bishop, you know, with respect to his $1 million or his 1 million Japanese bots on Instagram that make up his followers, he is a reasonable sized public figure. Now he, to your point, claims that Larry made these statements, but the crazy part about it is that they're all true. And a big part of slander or libel has to do with also proving malicious intent. Even if the statements are not true, you still have to prove that they were said in a way that was designed to injure you reputationally, etc. And he can't prove that. So Here it is, you have a frivolous lawsuit by a man who typically just throws out lawsuits against people. And what he attempts to do is stockpile them and have his lawyer kind of avalanche the other attorney in paperwork, hoping that this will result in a default judgment, which is clever for Bishop, and I guess also reasonable because the man got delinquent bills. He has a lawsuit from an elderly woman in his congregation that is suing him for almost $100,000. He has lawsuits against him allegedly from other ex-campaign associates that loaned him $500,000, loaned him $5,000. He's berated people out of money, and the man is currently facing an indictment. So he's getting an invoice from his lawyers every single month, and his house is in foreclosure, and his spiritual wife with the emotional support baby just left his side last month. So this man got shit to do, okay? He's trying to get by the hair on his chin.
And Killer with that emotional support baby. I cannot.
Just the facts
of be doing them lives holding that damn baby.
Hollering. Be hollering. Because it's facts. Okay. Now the other alternative we have to entertain now that we are aware of the ex-wife allegations is clinging tight to that baby may be the result of the current spiritual wife in fear of that man's proximity to the child they co-created together. Maybe that creates an even more deeper need to be overprotective of the baby, because how crazy is it to procreate with a man who literally was tied up in CPS and had these allegations against him against his prior children? So there's a lot going on there. But this lawsuit is completely frivolous. It's a money grab. He, like Levantre, is hoping to rob Peter to pay Paul. He's trying to get default judgments so that he can take those earnings and then, pay Paul out on the back end, who running after him for this, that, and the third. And his claims against Larry, they're completely baseless. Everything Larry said what happened came to pass. Larry also provided the facts that the FBI caught him. The FBI, reached out to him as a result of some of the people that had also been reaching out to Larry, who were telling him that, I've been scammed allegedly by this man, etc. And because the FBI was already on the Bishop's trail, they were trailing his ass. So they reached out to Larry to say, hey, do you have any information about these people?
Right. And I'm sorry, I mean, it's covered. But that's the other accusation that I find to be interesting. Because again, I didn't go to nobody's law school either. I didn't go through the police academy, the FBI, none of that. But what I do know is that the FBI does not start an investigation and then a month later they arresting somebody. They were already. He trying to say that Larry Reid is the reason why the FBI arrested him. Sir, no, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. That's just not. That's not how the legal system works. I mean, maybe locally, but not on the federal level. And when you read the affidavit, it was clear that they have been on this man's trail for a minute. Like, this wasn't a fly by night. Oh, you got robbed on live, and now we want to investigate you. No, they were already looking at you, sir. I
want to show you something, because this is because it's just the lies, and the infinite amount of lies for me. This is an excerpt from an article that was written up about the Bishop in the early part of the year. And there's an excerpt here because I want to establish just how long the FBI has been on this man's trail and how long he's known it, okay? When Bishop first got arrested for identity theft, etc., he didn't first end up on the FBI's radar, but the FBI was already on his ass in the early 2000s, okay? This man that owns a body shop named Belmonte came into contact with Bishop because Bishop had brought in his SUV to his shop. He started talking some business. The guy felt weird about the things that the Bishop was talking about, so he reached out to the authorities. So they pretty much had Belmonte set up a phone call that would be recorded with the authorities, unbeknownst to the bishop, on the line, foreseeing the situation. And check out this excerpt. On a friend's advice, Belmonte called an investigator at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan. Quote, I said I think the mayor of New York, which is Eric Adams, is on the take, Belmonte recalled. And he said, what do you mean? The investigator patched in colleagues, and Belmonte told him his story. Quote, I said the mayor of New York is trying to extort me through someone else. That someone else would be Bishop Whitehead. The next morning, the FBI agents arrived at Belmonte's door. Okay, keyword here, FBI arrived at Belmonte's door. Hold on, I done did something. What I done did?
I don't know. It might be
okay.
Okay.
No, it's my stuff. I might have to shrink this again. Okay, wait a minute. I done did something to this freaking article. Oh, the next morning, the FBI agents arrived at Belmonte's door. They asked Belmonte to call Whitehead and begin recording. Belmonte told Whitehead that he was ready to do business with him, etc. So I just want to establish the FBI has been on Bishop Whitehead's arse for years. There's also an excerpt from this same article that talks about Miss Gordon, who was allegedly an ex-girlfriend of Whitehead, who also reported that Whitehead would get up in the middle of the night to leave her to go see his mentor, Mayor Eric Adams, in the middle of the night, etc. But she also had come into contact with FBI as well as it relates to Bishop Whitehead. So Bishop Whitehead knows this, but he spins these narratives in order to just target Larry, because his feelings got hurt as a result of Larry's alleged coverage of the robbery, which I want to make this clear. Larry never, ever questioned the robbery itself. He never questioned whether it was genuine, whether it was a setup. All he did was imitate the way that the man got on the ground, something that Bishop Whitehead also imitate the way he hit the floor. And his feelings were hurt. He went crazy, called Larry the F word, got up there, dragged past the Genesis. It was a mess. We all saw it. And as a result, it opened up all of this buffoonery that he now has in his heart toward Larry. So he knows that Larry doesn't have anything to do with the FBI. The FBI has been behind him for years. And the facts just prove that to be the case.
And this ain't his first rodeo. He know how this works. This is not his first rodeo.
He currently is facing more charges now because the current indictment he has, the FBI are trying to get access to his passwords to the 13 devices they extrapolated from his home. 13 cell phones, tablets, laptops, walkie-talkies. I mean, you know, God knows what they have, and he refuses to get over his password. So now they're having to use special software to get access to this stuff. I mean, it's a mess. He knows he's going down.
Well, we have been here an hour and 13 minutes. I know you have a live scheduled for 10 o'clock. Are there any final words for anybody that is still trying to gather the facts? Anything that we didn't cover, that we didn't touch on, that you want to just make sure you put it out there as it relates to Lamore or Levantre?
I think that all these people speak for themselves. Levantre is a proven liar who sat down with a federally documented liar who also is in cahoots with a current liar facing an indictment. I think literally Destiny's Children speak for themselves. Kelly, Michelle, and Beyonce speak for themselves, baby, in this situation. You know, all I can say is before you get emotionally invested, like ReallyB, take up the information, look at the data, see what's going on, think critically, super significant, and realize that when it comes to accusations, there's always two people who potentially can be the victim: the person accused and or possibly the one doing the accuser. And I don't think that these are matters for us to frolic about or to treat like any other media coverage when it comes to claims like this, which to your point can lead to a Johnny Depp level of cancellation. Look at what happened to T.I. as a result of allegations that never even made it to the court. He was already canceled on VH1, etc. Blah, 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 blah. But, you know, people, you just have to be fact finding, and you have to realize that in this day and age, this can happen to anybody. It can happen to your favorite blogger. It can happen to your son. It can happen to your father. And would you want people to believe the victim first? For me, I don't know about you, ReallyB, but for me, when it comes to claims made publicly, now I ain't talking about the type of claims you make your own personal truth and you share that with your friends and your compadres and your close relatives. I think that's a different situation than when someone steps into the public arena and makes a claim. Unfortunately, the burden is on that person to prove their plight. It's not on the burden of you or I. This person brought this claim to us about someone else who exists in the public space. We do have to consider whether there is a predatorial context for that, whether this person is motivated by money, motivated by greed. We often know that people who make these type of accusations against high-profile people oftentimes are looking for payouts. Well, I ain't even gonna mention who I was about to mention because his name is trash. But you know, there's so much context you have to consider, and I just want people to have some common sense here. As content creators ourselves, we are witch hunted against. There are people that latch on to our names. There are people who feel disrespected by something we said in the stream, or they don't agree with something we feel, and then they go all out to commit an insurrection against that content creator. And you're like, are you okay? Like, you need a therapist, baby. Like, it should never be that deep. So if we know this happens in our space, of course we know that it happens in a bigger framework, but be fact-finding, just think critically, and the truth reveals itself. And once again, I want to give you a lot of praises, ReallyB, for being fact-finding. I want to give you your praises for sorting through both things and just using common sense. And once again, just looking for the black and white. I really, really, really appreciate that and think that that's commendable of you. And it's things like this that make your platform trustworthy. It gives your viewers the opportunity to follow somebody who they know who may start off neutral, which is where you're supposed to start off at. And you're supposed to take the organic journey of just exploring the case. And at least whatever conclusion you come to, your viewers know ReallyB came to an informed decision. Even if we don't agree with ReallyB's perspective or where her opinion lands, we know that it's a well-informed one. And that's ultimately what really matters here. So I just want to thank you for having me.
Thank you. And like I told people, for the people who may not have heard me say this before, like I told people before, I wasn't a Larry Reid fan. Larry Reid has said some things that I didn't.
Still don't have to be. You still might not like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he has said things that I didn't like, and I wasn't crazy about. So it wasn't like I wasn't a what do they call him? What do you call him over there? The ride the lot. What do they call him?
Well, the rider lives, or the live ride.
Right. I wasn't a rider live. You know, I would catch him sometime if it was the title caught my attention or what have you. And vice versa for Tasha K. I'm not a Tasha K fan one way or the other. There was a time when I really did like Tasha K. But so for me, I heard the story. I first heard the story like in the streets, you know, and then I started paying attention to what was being said. So for me, I like you said, I didn't walk into it with an opinion. But the more I heard, the more I questioned, and more it made me go, you know. So that's just, but thank you. And I appreciate that. And I want to thank all of the Conscious crew for coming over. I appreciate you.
How far are you from 10K, ReallyB?
I'm almost there. Okay, hold on. I'm so excited. Yeah, I just don't know. This has been an uproar. Okay, so I'm 26 people away from 10K.
Girl, you count on you. Count on me that you're gonna be at 10K by the end of this night. I'm gonna go live and promote the living hell out of your platform. You will hit 10K, honey, before tonight is out Cinderella. So just click your little glass slipper, baby.
My slipper, honey. Yes.
If y'all are not subscribed already, subscribe to Really Be TV. She's only 27 subbies away from 10K. We're going to get her there when I go live as well, and let everybody else know where they need to go subscribe to get their content. And that's right here exclusively, baby, on the Really Be TV platform.
And shout out to the other content creators that are right. Jonathan is my head clergy over here. He said we about to shout. But shout out to the other content creators that I saw in the chat. Pam, the Law Intellect Esquire,
A Gift and a Curse.
The Gift and the Killer, the Gift and the Curse podcast. I see Chloe Johnson in the chat. Of course, Abby Reviews, which is my head mod. El Teddy, which is my baby bro. He my sniper in the bushes. He drop down, say hi, and then he be sniping. If any other content creators that I missed, charge it to my head and not my heart. Thank you guys for being here. I'm gonna go ahead. Thank you, Miss Babyface. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna end it here so Conscious can hydrate and be ready for his cruise.
I'm about to go live immediately. I ain't even waiting until 10. I'm about to go get it over with, honey. So as soon as we done here, I'm in it.
Y'all gonna be there till 6 in the morning. You talking about getting
don't be dying, girl. I am not built like that tonight, honey. I'm about to give these folk a little 45-minute run, and I'm gone. I'm out of here. My mother got things to do.
I'll be over there. I will be over there. All right,
I love you and thank you for this.
All right, I'm hitting the button, y'all. See y'all. Y'all be over there in Consciouz TV.